out if there's anything else, but we'll go ahead and Jessica, you can pull up the first slide. So one of the things that we will talk about are the elements of the results section. And this includes any evolution to your intervention, findings, any unintended consequences, and missing data. And I just want to make a comment about intervention evolution before we go on. Although you're describing your initial steps of the intervention in the methods section, if halfway through your project you had to make a change in that intervention, you would perhaps want to report those modifications in the beginning of the results section. Next slide. So this is the section where you're going to report the findings of your research. And the findings include the description of the participants' demographics and any findings from your measures, including process measures or outcome measures. And for projects that have been done in the real world setting, the intervention, the setting, the sample, and the measurement instruments may all influence each other. And if you notice that, this may be the appropriate place to report on any associated observations about that. It's a description of the results found in a very straightforward way. And you want to make sure if you had hypotheses in the beginning that you're addressing each of the hypotheses and or specific aims in the results section. And one of the things that you may want to include in this section would be any unintended consequences. And this could be reporting unexpected benefits or unforeseen problems or increased costs, for example, associated with your intervention. However, it's important not to overwrite or to underwrite this section. Next slide. Overwriting is giving excessive detail beyond what is needed for analysis, reporting, or excessive weight given to non-significant results. Underwriting, on the other hand, is where there just is very superficial attention given to important aspects and variables of the research. And it says, do not open the results section with a description of the sample. That's more relevant to the methods section. I do want to make a comment that generally what I see is in the methods section, there may be a general description of the sample. And it's when you get to the results section where you may see the specifics about, say, percentage of male, female, sex, gender, etc. Okay. Okay, that's great. And the other thing that you want to include when you're thinking about the results section is any missing data. You want to provide details about missing data because that information may have an effect on the interpretation of your results. And you want to explain how missing data has been handled. And you can either do that when you're describing the statistics or when you're talking about any implications of missing data. And I would add as well, this may be where you want to make any comments about outliers too. Next slide. Again, I think we talked about this briefly last week, but we really are not reporting results as approaching significance or being a trend towards significance. Either a result is statistically significant or it's not. And as Richard mentioned last week, I think he said the p-value should be reported as less than 0.05 or less than 0.001 and not as an equal specific p-value. And non-significant findings should be reported as non-significant. Okay, next slide. Again, we want to start this section with your main findings, and then you would report any less important ones. But you do want to make sure that you're reporting all significant findings. We want to, again, organize the presentation of results by specific hypotheses or specific aims. And I just want to mention that the APA manual has a great tip for presenting data in tables, because you do want to take advantage of using tables and figures, but not using too many. And so you don't want to duplicate all of the data in the narrative in a table, and you don't want to duplicate all of the data in a table in a narrative. And you want to not interpret results at this point. Interpretation of these results is going to be in the discussion section. And I do want to just give an example of a situation that happened with me recently as the editor of the Journal for Addictions Nursing. We submitted a very long manuscript, although the content was excellent. It also was accompanied by 7 tables. And before I realized it, that manuscript put my page limit for that issue over what my limit was. Now it's okay, because I can make that up in the next issue, but this is one of the issues from an editor perspective. When you're sending something in with 7 or 10 tables, that may take 7 or 10 written print pages. And in general, journals just don't have the luxury for that many pages or tables and figures for one article.
Can I just add to that,
pardon me?
Can I just add to that? I think
yes, please. This is the end of this short section, so we can open it up.
Just that too many tables. I mean, I restrict my authors to 5 tables usually, a maximum of 5 tables. And sometimes, you know, you get supplementary material which is almost as long as the paper. And the reality is that if it's going to be published online, that doesn't matter too much. But for anything published in hard copy, it has all journals get a budget from their publisher, and therefore you just, if publishing things twice as long as it should be, then other people don't get the chance to publish.
Absolutely.
So I think what was significant, I thank you, Anne, great. Significant to me is 2 things was do not underwrite or overwrite this section. People tend to include discussion content in this section, which is more where you want to interpret your findings. And to include unintended consequences and missing data were key. But the other key point was to start your section with the most significant findings and then the less significant. I notice that I'm real excited about my significant findings, especially the most important ones, and I can't wait to put that in there. So it's kind of a natural thing.
Yeah, then within his phrase is more that is my. Yeah, it was not saying it was scared that they were going to see much.
Jessica, if you're the host, I think you could mute all of us.
Now we look around, we tell them that they are guys here.
Oh, I thought somebody was adding something to them.
Yeah, I went through and muted people earlier. I need to do it again.
So again, the other key thing was that to use the discussion section for interpretation of findings. This was very helpful. So. Any questions from folks or comments?
Hello. Can you hear me? Hi, thanks, Michelle. That was very precise and loaded at the same time. and very insightful. Thank you very much. I was actually going to ask the question that Richard just answered about the ideal number of tables and figures, and I think he has given an indication of 5. I think that's reasonably guiding. The other issue I just want to reflect on is what you just spoke about. It's exciting to report significant findings. Now, there are times when you do a research and everything is not significant. So what do you do with that? How easy is it to report that, and where do you begin? So I think you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that in reality, sometimes non-significant findings can be as important as significant findings. And that certainly depends on the state of affairs of where the science is given any particular problem. And so if it's an area that is just beginning to be looked at, then reporting non-significant findings would be extremely important. I think that's, the key for me. Are those non-significant findings adding to our knowledge of where we are for the science of that particular issue?
I agree that it's really important to report non-significant findings, especially, let's just say that you had no significant findings in your study, and you might be disheartened by that, but perhaps the next person can see, well, how do I need to vary this study if I want to replicate this, or how should I look at things differently? Are the variables clear? Are these the variables of interest? And that kind of thing, or should I change the method?
Perhaps a bigger sample size?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then if what you have found can lead to bigger and better projects, because this was an issue, this was an issue, and this was an issue, but these are all addressable if we do A, B, and C.
I think also that there's a very important point that too often journals don't publish things with non-significant results. But the reality is that they are often very important, because it may be that you're actually finding your findings contradict the findings of someone else, and that it deserves to be in the scientific debate. The other thing that you'll find is that when there is something which is researched and people keep researching it, every time there's a new paper, it tends to the level of significance tends to fall. You don't get such a big effect from compared to the original study. It's one of the things that happens with research. But I think non-significant findings are very important, but don't try to say, well, it was nearly significant or it could have been significant. If it's not significant, it's not significant, but we do need to report them.
Thank you.